It was a quiet Sunday afternoon when Mr. and Mrs. Thompson left their 7-year-old son, Max, at home for just a few hours. They expected him to greet them when they returned, but he was nowhere in sight. They found him huddled in a closet, shaking with fear. Max whispered about strange noises outside and footsteps on the gravel, whispers in a language he couldn't understand, and shadows passing by the windows. Then, he heard a loud thud against the door and hid in the closet. The Thompsons searched the house and perimeter, but found no sign of a break-in. They called the police, who found nothing unusual. The strangest part was, their normally calm dog now seemed scared and more alert at night. They've since installed security cameras around the house, hoping to catch anything unusual if it happens again. But Max's story remains a mystery. The Miller family huddled on the couch, watching a scary movie, but suddenly, a light growl echoed from the dark corner of the living room. Everyone froze. There, in the gloom, sat a big albino dog. Its fur shone angry white, and its eyes reflected the TV light with an unnatural red glow. The dog sat perfectly still, staring right at them. A terrified silence filled the room, then, a loud rapping came from the front door. Dad cautiously approached the door, the others following close behind. He peered through the peephole but saw nothing. He unlocked the door but nothing was there. Confused, they turned back to the living room, but the big albino dog was gone. The silence returned, thicker and more unsettling than before. Natalie loved taking baths, but tonight, the water felt extra cold. She shivered and pulled her knees up, splashing the water. Suddenly, a long, stringy thing brushed against her leg. Natalie shrieked and scrambled out. She looked in the tub, but nothing was there. Just a single, long hair floating on the surface, different from her short blonde hair. Natalie wrapped in a towel, still shivering, even though the bathroom was warm. She couldn't shake the feeling of something watching her from the dark corners. I had just moved to a new town, and I rented a room. The house was a little old and the landlord, a quiet old man, lived there too, keeping mostly to himself. On my first night, I woke up suddenly to see him standing by my bed, holding one of my shirts and staring right at me. I was so scared I ran to the bathroom, but I could hear strange noises, like furniture being moved and things falling. I decided I had to leave. As I hurried towards the front door, the noises stopped. I looked back into my room, and the old man was still there, frozen, staring at me, and nothing in the room seemed out of place. I dashed out into the night, my heart racing with fear. Even now, I can't explain what happened. The mystery of that night still gives me chills. Sarah, a librarian, disappeared on a crisp autumn evening. She was last seen walking home from work. When she didn't return, a search was launched, but the only trace ever found was her neatly folded coat on her doorstep. Weeks turned into months, and the whole town had theories. Some believed Sarah had run away, others whispered about a hidden lover. But the strangest part was the phone calls. Every year, on the anniversary of her disappearance, Sarah's mother received a call at midnight. There was never any sound on the other end, just a silence that echoed with a sense of unease. The calls stopped after Sarah's mother passed away, but the town remains haunted by the unanswered questions. What happened to Sarah? And who, or what, was on the other end of those calls? Mr. Snuggles, the neighborhood Doberman, wasn't himself anymore. The once playful pup was all skin and bones, with a cough that sounded like rocks rattling in his chest. But it was his eyes that freaked everyone out. They used to be warm and brown, but now they were cloudy white and seemed to glow in the dark. People started walking their dogs on the other side of the street to avoid Mr. Snuggles. Then, one day, both Mr. Snuggles and his owner disappeared. The police arrived and searched the place high and low, finding nothing. But the strangest thing is that people walking by swore they could still hear that awful cough echoing from the empty house, a constant reminder of the mysterious disappearance. In 1987, Emily, a 17-year-old high school senior, vanished on Halloween night after leaving a local costume party. After 3 days of searching, her body was found in the lake, showing signs of multiple stab wounds. The police were baffled by the brutal crime, but the mystery deepened when, a week later, Emily's family started receiving letters written in her handwriting. For 2 months, Every week brought a new letter filled with random, eerie stories, unmistakably penned by Emily. Despite the letter's odd and unsettling nature, the family could not decipher any clues about the sender's identity. After 2 months, the letters abruptly stopped, leaving the family and the entire town haunted by the unanswered questions. To this day, the case remains unsolved, with the strange letters adding a chilling layer to the tragedy of Emily's murder. In late December 1964, the local government abruptly imposed a curfew, citing an imminent massive storm. Police cars patrolled, urging everyone to stay indoors, but the clear skies raised suspicions. Tension grew as law enforcement aggressively enforced the curfew. However, rumors started spreading about a strange creature, which had been seen around town, with dozens reporting eerie encounters, deepening the town's fear. At 3 a.m., the silence broke with the sound of several government vehicles speeding through a main street. Residents speculated they were transporting the creature. The next day, with no storm in sight, the government apologized, claiming a forecasting error and insisting they only aimed to ensure safety. They never addressed the strange sightings or the night's events again, leaving the town with an unsettling mystery and lingering fear of what might still be out there. One chilly night in 1973, a group of friends went camping in a forest. They set up camp and built a fire, but as it got later, a thick fog covered their campsite. The friends began to feel uneasy, and around midnight, they started hearing strange whispers, soft at first, then louder. They looked around, but couldn't see anyone. The whispers seemed to be coming from all directions. They heard distant cries and unsettling murmurs, but saw no one nearby. The friends decided to leave the area quickly, but the fog made it hard to see. While trying to find their way back, they stumbled upon an old, empty cabin they hadn't seen before. They looked inside, but found no one. The friends left the forest and told authorities about the whispers and the cabin. Search teams found no sign of the old structure, and the friends never went back. The mystery of the whispers in the fog remains unsolved. In our neighborhood stood this old, spooky house. Its gate was always half open, but nobody ever seemed to live there. Dogs passing by would bark like crazy, as if they sensed something scary inside. One day, a guy let his dog go in to sniff around. But then, he heard his dog yelp, and everything went quiet. Terrified, he went in to find his pet, but there was no sign of him. Even when the police came, they couldn't find the dog or anyone else in the house. It left everyone puzzled and spooked, with the feeling that something strange was going on there, but to this day, no one has seen the dog again, or even knows if someone lives in that house. My wife and I moved into a new house in a small village on the countryside of Poland. It didn't take long and strange things started happening. Objects shifted, noises pierced the silence. We laughed it off until my wife woke me one night, trembling. She swore a figure stood by our bed, but I saw nothing. Then came whispers, chilling voices without origin. Doors slammed, temperatures plunged. Suddenly, footsteps echoed, not like any I've heard. They stopped outside our door. We held tight, fearing the worst. And then suddenly, the door creaked open into darkness. We fled that night, and only came back the next morning to pack our things to leave and never come back. John was driving late at night, his headlights piercing the darkness when he spotted a figure standing by the roadside. As he approached, he saw a young girl, her eyes vacant, without any expression, holding a tattered doll. Ignoring an instinctive urge to flee, he slowed down, intending to offer help. But as he rolled down his window, she whispered,
"He is still here."
After that, she vanished into thin air. Shaken to the core, he sped away, haunted by the unsettling encounter and the unanswered question: who, or what, was still here? I was walking downtown shopping, and suddenly I noticed people started giggling at me. Some were laughing outright. It felt weird. I passed my hand over my face and felt a jelly-like sensation, as if my face were melting. I grew desperate as the laughter around me grew louder. Panicking, I ran into the nearest shop to check myself in a mirror. To my surprise, nothing was wrong with me. I looked completely fine. As I continued walking, everything seemed normal again. No one was laughing or even noticing me. After this bizarre episode, I went to the doctor for a thorough examination, but all tests came back normal. Over the next few days, I questioned my sanity, but nothing like it ever happened again. It's been 37 years since that day, and I still have no explanation for what occurred. On a stormy night, little Lily lay scared in her bed, clutching her teddy bear tightly. Suddenly, the lights went out, plunging the room into darkness. Lily heard a noise from under her bed, like scratching. She was too scared to open her eyes as the scratching grew louder, almost touching her foot. Lily screamed and jumped out of bed. Just then, the lights flickered back on. Peeking under the bed, Lily found nothing, but she spotted a muddy paw print on the carpet. They searched the whole house but found nothing unusual. To this day, they wonder about the mysterious muddy paw print. In a quiet village lived old Arthur, a deaf and mute man who kept to himself. One eerie night, he emerged from his home, gesturing urgently, pointing to the house in distress. Concerned, the neighbors rushed inside of the house to check what was wrong. They searched every corner, but found nothing unusual. When they returned, they discovered Arthur lying on the path, unresponsive, his eyes clouded over. For 2 long months, Arthur remained in a coma before passing. Despite efforts to uncover the truth, no one could explain what had happened inside his house that night. The village was left with unanswered questions, haunted by the inexplicable events surrounding old Arthur's plight. To this day, the truth remains elusive, casting a shadow of unease over the community.